Hi, my name is Dan Corsai, and I'm going to present to you my assignment on inclusive leadership. First, before I show you the first video, I wanted to give you a little background on the biography of the speaker that I chose for my first video, and that is, gentleman's name is Dr. Gary Ranker, and he's known as the Global CEO Coach. He was the former CEO of Hallmark Cards and Textron. He's well traveled. He's lived on four different continents, and currently he travels almost 1,000,000 miles a year, consulting with his global clients. And he also holds a PhD in human and organizational development. Let's take a look at Dr. Gary Ranker.
In the beginning of leadership, particularly as I personally started observing and then began to have leadership positions myself, I saw that people, there was a lot of command and control. There was a lot of very hierarchical leadership where bosses were expected to know the answers, and people who reported to the bosses were supposed to sort of shut up and do what they were told. When I started managing, I was told very distinctly by some of my American bosses, what you're doing, Gary, in inviting participation in decisions is kind of up to you, but realize you're next on the line, and you don't really have to be involving people because most of us don't. You're the boss. You just, do it. Tell people what to do. And so I was kind of acting revolutionary, but this evolution of management towards a more global mindset of management, what I see is that ability that has occurred over time to invite participation and to invite not just participation in decisions from people who are perhaps from the country of origin of a company, but rather to begin recognizing that talent is global. That sort of, to me, that ability, in other words, the common thread here about global mindset, to me, is the ability to get outside of your own skin, to be able to look through someone else's eyes, whether you're a company or you're a person or you're looking at leadership.
Okay. So I think that was I chose that video based on his experience. He's a very internationally known person for his leadership, consulting and ability, running a global organization himself. But anyway, he makes a mention in there at the very beginning about how when he first got started, it was very common to have a lot of command control, hierarchical type approach to management, and he kind of challenged the process there. But he recognizes that talent is global, and I related that to at least to an educational setting, that talent is everywhere around the school, not just with other administrators. Talent is with all employees and people in the community as well. So I think that's how I related his presentation there to educational leadership. Also, he makes a comment here about getting outside of your own skin. And at least in my own experience, and I've worked with a few different principals, I think it would be, at least the ones that I've worked for, could have taken this advice, I think, a little bit, and been a little more easy to talk to on a more personal basis, just to get to know the person. And in getting to know someone, you better know how to lead and to motivate and things that they need, and things like vary your approach and things like that. And then looking through someone else's eyes, when we talk about race, when we talk about cultures, class of people, things like that, a school is very diverse in the different types of people that work there. And I think it's important as an educational leader to be able to step back and say, am I acting in a way that I would want to be led by somebody? Am I doing how I'd want to be treated? And so I think that's a great way to look at being inclusive of all different people, seeking input from all different people. And I think that's a great way to look at it. Okay. The next leader that I chose in his short clip was Herb Kelleher, someone who I'm very fond of. But in the title of his presentation is "The Business of Business is People," and we're going to watch about 50 seconds of it here. But just a little bit of biography on Herb Kelleher, because I learned some of this that I didn't know before that. That he was a lawyer. He practiced law in New Jersey and Texas. Originally served as an attorney to Southwest. Purchased a small stake in the company in the early 1970s. Then in 1982 was asked to be the CEO of Southwest Airlines. And one last thing, when I was doing my research on his biography, there was this quote here in the article that was made by his mother. And he mentions that he gets a lot of he learned a lot about leadership and working with other people from his mother. And this was one of the comments that she made. And when I read this, it automatically stuck with me because I'm thinking about inclusive leadership. And the quote, it reads, "Judge on merit rather than appearance." And so I thought that was, tailor-made to discussing issues related to gender, race, cultures, classes of people, and so on. So I think it's easy to for some people to stereotype and make judgments based on the way people look rather than their merit, so and their character. So let's go ahead and take a look at Herb Kelleher.
The business of business is people, yesterday, today, and forever. And as among employees, shareholders, and customers, we decided that our internal customers, our employees, came first. The synergy, in our opinion, is simple. Honor, respect, care for, protect, and reward your employees, regardless of title or position. And in turn, they will treat each other and their external customers in a warm, in a caring, and in a hospitable way. This causes external customers to return, thus bringing joy to shareholders.
Okay. The title alone speaks for itself. Business of business is people. And I thought that was very appropriate when discussing inclusive leadership. But Herb's philosophy and the philosophy that they used at Southwest was to focus on the employees first. And I quoted him there again from his presentation. But he really emphasizes and strongly emphasizes the last part there, to protect and reward your employees regardless of their title or position. I think this is where he's relating to regardless of what they do for the organization, regardless of who they are, the way they look, where they come from. If they do a good job, they deserve to be rewarded. They deserve to be treated just like everybody else, whether it's another member of management or the lowest person at the organization. So I thought that was a great approach there. And the result is that employees will treat each other and external customers very well, and that's in a business setting. And so to relate it to an educational institution, treating the staff very well will likely, at least in my opinion, will boost teacher morale, teacher motivation, staff motivation. I think the school would be a much better place. The rooms would be cleaner. The cafeteria food could be better. Teacher instruction could be better. The classroom environments will improve, and I think school student achievement can improve. And I think a lot of times, traditionally, at least in my experience, the approach has been to train, to do assessments, and to boost teacher performance. But how about something like this, a more inclusive leadership approach? I think there's a lot to be said. Okay, now for part 2 of the assignment, we're going to take a closer look at how inclusive leadership can be applied to education. Does the educational leader value the opinions of all school stakeholders, not just administrators? Does an educational leader seek input from other staff members, parents, and students as well? Is the school leader committed to celebrating diversity within the school community? So does the school host celebrations and have decorations that represent the various cultures within that school community? And is the curriculum in place to teach cultural awareness within the classroom? And then these last 2 points on this page here have to do with parents and students and their ability to participate in after-school activities. And I think this is an area of concern in many schools that don't get a lot of participation from a particular group of students and parents. And perhaps it's because they have to go straight home after school. They aren't able to stay after school to participate. As far as the parents, PTO meetings are usually in the evenings, and some parents work at night in second shift, and they aren't able to attend. And so this is a very underrepresented group within the school community, and so perhaps an adjustment there could be made to better serve the community in that capacity. All right, now these 2 bullet points here I took from our earlier work in the course on various leadership theories. And the first one that stuck out to me was the situational leadership theory, co-founded by Ken Blanchard. And basically the idea here is to, adjust your approach based on the situation. And I think this goes with inclusive leadership, because in order to be able to do that, the leader has to get to know that person, get to know their personality, their character, and then make a judgment based on what they think is going to make them successful. And that's showing care for everybody and caring for their success. So I think that's works very well with inclusive leadership. And then the second theory there that stuck out to me was servant leadership theory, and treating all school students and personnel with respect, resulting in a positive school climate. So again, training your employees to serve others, training your staff members to serve others, particularly the administrative staff. I think that goes a long way in developing that positive school climate, helping for everyone to buy into that shared vision as well. Okay, I picked out a few things here from the Leadership Challenge book, and right in the very beginning there was a quote. And the quote reads, "Their actions are consistent with their words." And this is something that credible leaders do. And so a credible leader cares about the success of every person and shows that they care. And it's important that when you say something, that your actions model what you say. Again, and then following on that same line there, modeling the way. To effectively model the way, you must first be clear about your own guiding principles. And so it takes a little bit of self-reflection and determining, how strongly do you value diversity? And does that show in your speech and in action? So can your leaders see from the way that you act, the way that you behave, that you actually do care about diversity? And the last point here, do you personalize recognition? When you say thank you to somebody, when you offer some type of gesture of gratitude or token, is it done special for that person, or does everybody get the same thing? I think that's a good way to be inclusive, and I took that from chapter 10 entitled "Encourage the Heart." Okay, this is my summary paragraph on the challenges to implementing inclusive leadership. And so I'm just going to briefly summarize this. But inclusive leadership requires a complete buy-in in the whole organization. And, at a school, you can expect this to take several years. And I think you can also expect a lot of staff turnover during that time. I think the biggest roadblock, especially in a school with a strong union presence, would be staff reluctance and the pushback when trying to implement a program such as this. Okay, that wraps it up. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.